chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina Speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, what do you know? Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to one and all. Good afternoon and definitely good morning to our global family. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, Voices of the Islands, conversations for the world. And the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. It is great to be back with you, and I'm ecstatic. I'm so looking forward to the weekend. I don't know about you. It has been one heck of a week, jam-packed, definitely with hanging here with you. Every one of you. It has been a treat. And as you know, I'm looking forward to just the holidays, just winding things down as I continue to just usher in this holiday season. But we got to keep it going. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. You could be doing so much other things on this Friday, but thank you for all of you who continue to show up. I definitely appreciate you. You know, earlier today and right now, Parliament is still in session. And there you have it. I'm going to give you what I got just before coming live. Well, here we are right now. The Immigration Transition Amendment and Validation Bill 2025 was officially passed. Yes, it has officially passed its second reading. And in that section, because they're still now, just before coming live, in committee stage amendments. So when the votes was whether or not it can pass, it can go through. The results of that, all members have to vote on it at the time. There were 16 votes in favor of it, one abstention, meaning one person abstained, and 2 members were absent. So, like I said, the bill is now in committee stage. And this part is where now they're going through the bill line by line, and any changes that are made and were learnt of. We knew that there were 17 amendments and that were on the table. Now, because of them being in committee stage, and we, the public, were just hearing of these amendments for the first time in this committee stage amendment. You're not alone if that was the first time, if you have been tuned in. So have we. And today, I'm going to be very honest with you. I did not go through because without a document and so many amendments, just listening to it, it's really hard for you to follow. And bearing in mind that the opposition themselves have questions, and they too, at this committee stage amendments, can make suggestions that could actually evoke more changes to wording or verbiage. But you know what? The content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345-936-8255 is the number to call to be a part of this discussion. Welcome to all of you here on this fabulous Friday. Let's get straight into the weather so we can just start dissecting, and I'll explain to you that even though there was an abstention, which was the member from Caymanians East, she did declare the reason why she abstained at that juncture was because she had questions, and she still has some more, but the major ones has already been asked, and sound ones. And she says, that she abstained at that time. And what I got from her statement is that she then, after, I guess, receiving answers based on her questions, she will now support the bill. I stand to be corrected. So that was just for clarity. But at the time of the vote, with explanation now, Caymanians East, Miss Julie, she abstained, and makes total sense. And that's in standing orders. You can do that. Because she had questions to ask. This is why it is good to know standing orders, okay? But before we go into that, let's get the weather out of the way. We just want to keep things rolling here as we normally do. Synopsis call for a surface trough over the Gulf of Honduras, along with residual moisture lingering across the Northwest Caribbean. That will allow for the chance of some more showers across the Cayman area tonight, with a gradual decrease thereafter. Moderate winds and seas are expected as a ridge of high pressure builds across the Northwest Caribbean. Satellite imagery shows scattered clouds across the Northwest Caribbean. Tonight's forecast called for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near the mid to upper 70s. Winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Tomorrow's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise near to the mid to upper 80s with a heat index of 94. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 50 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. There's going to be a low tide at 11:39 tonight, with a high tide at 6:31 in the morning and another at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. Sun will set this evening at 5:48. Sun will rise tomorrow at 6:51 and again setting at 5:48 as well tomorrow evening. The outlook for this evening is for decrease in winds and seas from Sunday as the ridge of high pressure moves into the central Atlantic. So there you have it. You can plan your Christmas parties, anything outdoors. There you have it, pretty much lining up for the weekend. And it's really unpredictable this time of the year here in the Cayman Islands. But we welcome the cooler temperatures. Definitely, I was hoping for some stronger breezes as we are so accustomed to this time of the year. But let's see who is here. Hey, Connie Bonnie, happy Friday to you, my love. How are you? Compliments of the season to everyone as well. So sweet of you. Sean Basil, hello. How are you? Happy Friday to you, my brother. Hope all is well and you're doing fine. You and wifey. Damian Henry, happy Friday to you as well. Hey, Barbara G, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. I'm not even going there, girl. You need to have a drink when you talk about that. It's a side joke with me, Miss Barbara. But thank you for sharing, nevertheless. Hey, Marshall, how you doing? Good evening to you, my sweet Emma. Good evening to you. I really hope and wish you the same, for God's sakes. I'm asking you guys to be safe on the roads because from what I'm understanding, it is mayhem out there. And we just want you to drive with caution. I mean, our first responders, we know pretty much our SIPs, the police officers are going to have they're going to be busy anyhow because of the season. And we're seeing where we had a robbery in town today and all of that sort of stuff, amongst everything, the traffic side, all aspects. And then we're seeing where beach patrols as well, the Guardian, there's a thing that police has now for the season that has wrapped up since yesterday. Congratulations to them. And we want to thank them for their service. But yeah, they are on their feet, definitely making more patrols and doing all that they have to do to making sure that we can keep safe. But again, we do the same. We have to do the same with our homes. We have to be extra vigilant when we're out as well. I can't believe that we have turned a jurisdiction like this where it's just sound anyhow, that you actually have to be doing this. But yeah, we got to help ourselves as well. But on the roads, please slow down. We saw where a pedestrian as well was knocked down today earlier as well. And a pedestrian, anyone who's really, really familiar with the roads here in the Cayman Islands, residents alone, they should know exactly along the 7 Mile corridor, in the vicinity of Bank of Butterfield and C&B by Agriculture and the Farmers Market. There are 2 right there. As a matter of fact, no, there are 3. And you know where these hot spots are, and especially by A.L. Thompson's and across from Ed's Plaza. These are hot spots, and those areas are very, very busy anytime. It doesn't have to be the festive season, but we know we're going to have more people either on bicycles or by foot, definitely more cars on the road, you name it. Just be careful, period. And yeah, I'm just wishing everyone a safe and a blessed Christmas, but more so, we cannot stop this appeal to just use good old common sense when you're traversing our roads, be it as a pedestrian, be it as you're on these darn scooters or whatever mode of transport you're using. We're just asking you to be cautious, but more so those who are driving. Hey, Sonia, it's good to see you. Happy holidays to you. Hope I'll run into you over the holidays. And hello to you too as well. It is a pleasure to have you all joining me. Yes, for those of you who are just tuning in this evening, we're going to just give a quick synopsis. It's been good. I didn't venture out today. And I was touch and go with all of the debates and all that sort of stuff and hearing how things went down. But for those of you who are just joining me, welcome back. It's good to have you here with me on this Friday. And welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. We know this is where we slow things down a little bit, break things apart, take discussions apart, and we make sense out of what's happening in Parliament and our country as a whole. And, you know, in this wind down Friday, it's almost like winding down Parliament because we're right now that bill is passed and it's in its second reading, 16 members in favor. And like I said, you missed it. 1 abstained with explanation just before we came live and 2 absences. So it moves officially right now where that bill is concerned. For all of you who are asking, it moves to committee stage, which they are still in at this time, where, like I said at the beginning, members go through line by line and vote on any changes. There have been a number of them. And today I will do my best to recap for information purposes because it's still ongoing. And now just break it down in its totality. But again, if some of you are watching, I know Mr. Balika, who's a huge contributor to the show, and Danny, I'm not so sure what his day was like today. If it was anything like yesterday, oh my God, 2 days back to back, I'd go crazy. But yeah, it's been mayhem. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at it from both sides. You're hearing some people are with a sigh of relief. Wow, it's over. Finally, we are protected. This is, this is what we needed in immigration reform. And I don't care what, why hold it up anymore? Who cares? Just do what we got to do. We got to make a change. And then you have those that says, hold up. What? Not even another week, not even 2 weeks. It's a balance. I intend to explore and discuss, and I welcome your feedback because you are the core, you are the foundation of this space. And I'm here to create that space. I'm here to give you a quick synopsis of my takeaways of what I did here. And I'm publicly declaring I did not sit and I just couldn't. I'm just not that type to sit down and hear amendment to this and amendment to that, and I'm jumping from one screen to the next and see the justification, and you literally have to hear word for word and where the comma has to go and open quotation is go. I was going crazy because I work better when it comes with a piece of document. I haven't had that document. So at some point, I just listened. I stopped. I gave up. I gave up because at some point, I'm quite sure all of these amendments will be placed in a document and we will see another, I guess, draft of whatever this is once it is, but it's already passed. And it has to go back now to Parliament where they will do the official vote with the amendments to the amendment. And even at one point, the chairman, there were so much amendments being of the amendment that was amended. Even him got a little tongue-tied, and he had to chuckle a couple times. But it's just the nature, I guess, of the game, or not game, the nature of the role. Let me be politically correct. It's the nature of the role, and these things do happen. And I want to just, again, present it from all sides. There were some key takeaways based on what I heard where clarification was needed about the one that stood up was the one about Caymanian status holders who are spouses of Caymanians, and the 5-year that they could lose their Caymanian citizenship, their Caymanian status if they've been off island, unless you were off island for medical reasons or education purposes. That's it. That's it. If you weren't off for those reasons outlined, you can't just between you and your partner, your non-Caymanian partner, the partner that has a status, just make the decision. It's in the best interest for me to go and live A, and I stay B, and we come together for an extended period of time because of whatever reason, be it the kids or be it for work purposes or just to keep the lights on, food, because it works. It appears as though if it is not for those reasons, then that Caymanian status holder risks losing the status because they're not legal and ordinarily resident as defined by law. So that was clarified. The question was posed by the Georgetown Central member. Clarity was asked, and I got a short clipping of a particular section that was being asked to be explained because it was so convoluted that the member was asked to explain, and he admitted that he himself did not understand, and that's why he had to leave it to his team. Now, yeah, he had to be honest, but it hammer home the fact that the public themselves are hearing a lot of these amendments for the first time today. And here you are tabling amendments to something that the public is just hearing for the first time, and you alone cannot break it down in layman's terms. The question was asked, then how is the public supposed to understand? And it was a fair question. But again, if the sentiments of the House is that what representations were made to members of Parliament says proceed, the vote was for the bill to go through a 16. I guess you can count that 17 with 2 persons just being absent. Then what is there to be babbling over at the end of the day? Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening. I am looking forward for the subject matter experts to chime in shortly. However, let me go ahead and ask my question in case it may not be addressed. I wasn't able to listen to the entire thing, okay? But speaking specifically to what you were just talking about in relation to the 3 conditions under which if a status holder who has gained it by way of marriage to a Caymanian can lose it if they leave the island for 5 years or more. They said education, medical, or business, right? Business was the third one?
Yes, I thought there was another one. Let's say you were relocated because let's say your place of employ relocated you, let's say to Hong Kong or to Canada or wherever. But if you were still based to, I guess business could mean for that as well. I don't want to speak because, like I said, there's a lot of Not having a
But
document
the
makes it,
question-
yeah, it's really
Okay, 'cause
convoluted.
I was going to ask, what did you interpret as the definition of business? But there you go. You
Yeah, it's
answered it
more than
before I
likely
even-
business, but the business is business. Employment is another thing. I don't know.
It is.
So
Exactly.
business
Right? So,
is not making much sense, but I'm assuming because it is so much to really just go through that, breaking it down in layman's terms that we have time here to do. Maybe he was not given the information because it's a lot of amendments. And where
am I correct in saying that this discussion today in the House of Parliament is the first that anyone aside from the powers that be, the decision makers at the time, are learning of what these amendments are?
Yes, I think you heard the
Okay.
member from Georgetown Central that says even yesterday when he asked.
I heard him yesterday.
That
Yes,
when
I
he
did.
asked what I think that was
I also noticed that
regulations.
nobody really answered him about the regulations that he wanted to see. However, this is my other question, because I did not listen to the entire thing yet. But there's been this huge outcry as a result of the Indigo Divers incident, right?
Uh-huh.
That we need to implement a law that allows us to be able to revoke status. I guess based on whatever grounds, I'm assuming, persons who have been granted what we native Caymanians tend to say as a paper Caymanian. And listening to what I did hear, I'm not getting that has been addressed in this reform.
No,
Am I right? Am I wrong?
You are quite right. In this tranche of amendments, the transitional clause saves that incident that you're alluding to because it's already granted. What is the takeaway from this amendment is that once this law comes in effect, it's only what grants are done once this law comes in effect would this law apply to. So directly to the incident that you're referring to, they would be protected under the same terms and conditions of the current law that's in play right now. So no.
Okay, but if something like that was to happen afterwards, is there anything that will come into effect, as he said,
under this new one?
The earliest March 1st,
no,
the new one.
No, it didn't address
so
that.
It has not been addressed at all.
No.
And wasn't that like one of the most major cry-outs of our people that needed to be addressed? And
Correct. But we don't know, remember, we don't know because this is just a step in the right direction. We don't know what is the other phase of amendments that will be coming, but they just wanted to get this started. And as the honorable member for finance said in his contribution, if once this passes, which it has, and they would be the first to come back down to do an amendment should they see unintended consequences.
Areas that need addressing. Yes.
Correct. So I
did hear that too. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's hard to say that we're going to see unintended consequences in short order because anyone knows when a piece of legislation takes place, and we have aired it here, it's probably 9 years before you see the impacts, be it good or bad, and really to be obvious to measure people's behavior once a new piece of legislation takes effect.
Right.
So you're not going to see it even if they come back to Parliament in 6 months, in the next year, unless it's 12, something, unless there's something really damning or really, you're not going to see it immediately, which is why people are like not understanding. And even for full transparency, even if there's a call for a revocation based on one's actions, one's behavior, people will have a right to challenge. They will have a right of appeal. So it is still the bureaucratic red tape. But directly to your question, no, it was not addressed in this amendment. And because of the transitional clause, that particular person would be protected anyhow, because it was granted under the old law.
Prior to, like a type of a grandfather type
Correct.
thing, yeah.
Correct. What another thing,
Okay.
a huge takeaway as well that I got was they was pointed out by, I think, the Caymanians East member who questioned whether, we're now giving non-Caymanian civil servants the right to work outside. Okay.
Yeah.
But what if they now, and she sought clarity, what happens if they decide then they're a civil servant and they want to leave the civil service to go in the private sector under the provisions that are being proposed? If you have been employed for less than 2 years, they say you have to leave the jurisdiction. Does the same rules apply to them? And it could not be answered. Literally, it was silence.
I didn't get that far.
No, I only caught it. I only caught in on it because the TV was on. I had one phone in my hand so that I kept moving with it, whatever I was doing around the house, so I didn't miss. And God forbid if I got a call or something. But I did catch that much to say, for paraphrasing purposes, that was not one of the things that they had actually thought of.
Okay, consideration.
Yeah. So
exactly.
what we were doing is that we saw the behavior, which is why I'm saying patterns in people's behavior when legislation takes place is not immediately picked up. She managed to pick it up immediately and asked the question. I don't see where it's clear. Will that be pointed out in regulations? And of course, what is the regulations? Where are the regulations? Nobody's seeing it. But
that's the jack in the box that everybody's doing.
Correct. But the mere fact that the answer from the operational arm to the minister to say, we're going to have to explore that now with legal and revert back. Once this session is done, saved by public announcement, maybe on some other media, the public may never be informed fully to what that is or what that change would be and how the process would work. You understand?
Especially based on how forthcoming they have been so far.
Yeah, and this is again how the wheels work, how the processes work, how much moving parts they are to things like this. And nobody is saying that any amendments to any piece of legislation will not come with a glitch here or there. But we saw 37 amendments, 17 changes, and some, because there were some suggestions even made by Georgetown West or Georgetown East, Mr. Roy McTaggart, that it took into consideration when they came in regards to refunds from refused work permits. What was being recommended is that the filing fee in the bond would have been refundable if a work permit was denied, but the fees for the ID would not have been refunded. The question posed by Mr. Roy, well, why not refund the ID fee? Because it would have never been issued. And they accepted to make that necessary amendment right there and then. So now, in addition to the work permit fee, and the bond, the filing fee would remain, but the work permit fee and the ID fee is now going to be refunded.
Okay.
And that was another change. So in total, I cannot count how much amendments in addition to the 17 that they went there. No, I can't tell you. And this is by no means showing anyone up. And I understand the pressure that a minister in parliament, especially a first-time minister, would be under. But when one says, I can't explain what I just said, how are we supposed to understand it?
Right.
And it happens. It happens. And this is why, people have the right to question. They're probably, like I said, there are two sides of all of this right now. They're still going through it. I stand to be corrected because I'm not doing this live and watching them. I just couldn't. You're just not designed that way. But really, you have two sets of people this weekend. You have some people that are feeling relieved and, that they're just reassured that we're on the right path. And then you have some that are feeling that they were overlooked and this thing was still rushed. You have both sides, and both sides have a right to feel the way that they feel.
Exactly. Have they adjourned already for today, or
Well, they
are
were
they
still
still
on,
debating?
they were still actually in committee stage when I came live. That was where I think there was a long part that the minister presented that the honorable, that Mr. Brian, Georgetown Central, was asking for an explanation because they just couldn't understand what was said with the explanation given. And really, that was left there hanging, and you couldn't get a layman's term explanation. I didn't hear the question,
Okay.
but the minister was not able to explain it themselves because he admitted, look, I'm not here to explain it. That's what I have the staff to do.
Right.
And
And to a certain degree, you do
it's
have
fair.
a point. But this is a major thing that if I'm going to go and present this, I guess I would want to know, in and out of everything. But anyway, we're going to continue to follow, and we're going to learn a lot of things as we go. And the Caymanian community, as well as even the expatriate community, need to be pay very close attention to all that's happening. For sure.
Yes, definitely.
Eyes and ears wide open.
Yes. Well, let's see, but I don't want people rushing. There was something that I saw somebody had a clip somewhere where there was long lines down at WORC, and people were assuming that that's maybe because they realized that the bill was passed. I don't know why those long queues were there. But I know normally from my days of being immigration, Atisha, you used to frequent there as an HR person yourself. Usually this time of the year, you have a lot of people that are traveling. They're probably looking, if they needed a re-entry stamps, or let's say they have traveled since Easter and their work permit renewal was approved, and they need their work permit stamp in their travel document now in order to gain back. So you will have an influx of people just getting their passports up to naturally. And you could have persons needing to submit work permit renewals in order to get the reentry stamp in order to travel. So so I'm not going to assume that had anything to do with this. I'm not even going to assume that it has to do with putting in, let's say, renewals earlier so that the new fees don't hit you. Because that's another thing as well. Remember, they were encouraging people to start putting in work permits at least.
Yeah, well, people still got time because he said that got happened before March 1st.
There we go. So, but again, with everything and the uncertainty, people are just wanting to make sure that they do. Yeah. People are fatigued.
People are weary, no doubt.
Yeah, and this is from all sides because, like I said, we have to be respectful of exactly the two groups of people today. Some may feel deflated. Some may feel like, really and truly, what's the sense? We only asked for 2 weeks. And then some will say, shut up. You didn't make yourself available. The government can't do it all. It's about time. We don't really care what you have to say. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
And look, we'll make the necessary amendments. Both sides have a right to feel the way they want to feel.
And that is the absolute truth. And it takes a mature person to be able to recognize that.
Both sides have the right.
A lot of people from being able to recognize that. But that is absolutely correct.
So, I mean, we said,
there are valid arguments on both
sides. Yeah. And I guess the common consensus was that, do we need immigration reform? Yes. What type?
Yeah, no one is disputing
correct.
That. Absolutely no one.
Do we want a reform that will be obvious, in your face, divisive? No. And I think that was the common takeaway. And then, like I said yesterday, ding, 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 the bells are going off. Are we too late to voice our opinion? Yes, you are. But there's nothing stopping you overnight from messaging your MP, so, but whether or not right now, it's already passed. So going into fact now, like we said, all applications right now that are still being processed, let me let you calm down so you will enjoy your Christmas. Any applications that are already submitted, you're good. You're under this law. It's once the law comes into effect, any application being submitted on the day this law comes into effect. And after that, all of this will actually impact
Apply.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting couple of days. It's actually going to be a very interesting evening should they not wind this up.
Yes.
Yeah. Should they not wind up the House of Parliament. But it is the festive season. We are seeing where normally each member is given an opportunity to spread Christmas cheer to their constituencies, have a moment. Some in there will be celebrating. Some will be probably crying. Some would be like, holy crap, what did we just do? We don't know. But like I said, all sides from whatever side of the table you sit on right now can actually debate why they feel the way they feel right now. But I know there are going to probably be a lot of discussions around the family gatherings this holiday season about the trajectory we're on come March.
Lots to talk about.
Oh yeah, because these new fees are going to take effect for the various driver's license, which was very topical, come January. Yeah, so a lot of things are going to come into for the new year. So resolutions, we're going to tighten up our belts in order to be able to survive here, and especially small business owners. Remember now, is it 850, 875? I stand to be corrected. Minimum wage.
875.
875 now comes into effect as January 1st as well.
You better believe it.
So all of you HR people.
I'm going to get off and listen to you.
Yes,
I'm going to get off and listen to you. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. There you have it. So word to the wise for all employers, be it micro and small businesses, but if you have contracts and let's say your staff was being paid at a certain amount and this new amount now, the 875 an hour, you should go and amend their terms, their contracts. If you're in one of those positions that have, a contract, because not all positions require a contract, like domestic helpers and all that sort of stuff. But it's wise for anybody who employs somebody to have at least a statement of working conditions that outlines everything, even if you're a domestic or a nanny or an au pair or a gardener or somebody or a farmer, casual worker. You as an employer should actually have some sort of agreement. Now, if for whatever reason your staff has been actually is going to be positively impacted by this raise, because many of you, the salary don't change, you were already making more than 875. It would be wise for you to amend whatever agreement you have with any and all of your staff, should they have not been making the minimum wage. But as of the first, that their salary is going to change to be aligned with the minimum wage. Of course, if they were always making more, then you don't have to. But if you're definitely somebody who are making under minimum wage at the end of the day, then guess what? You need to amend your terms of working conditions, or you definitely need to amend your contract. So there we have it. But like I said, 936-8255 is the number to call to weigh in. I would love to get your feedback on this with how you feel. We heard as well that in some of the discussions, like I said, I was tuning in and out today in regards to why some of the members were so expressive in their debates and emotive and somewhat angry, and pointing out why the people needs to know and giving their views. And at the end of the day, I think Georgetown Central again, he was the only one that called it for what it was or is. If it was seen that you didn't vote for this bill, it could be political suicide. That's what he said. Now I can understand, I can see it from both sides, why one would say that. And then they still had concerns. But like I said, with the two members in the opposition that was absent, of course, with explanation or permission acknowledged by the Speaker of the House, only Miss Julie, the member for Caymanians East, abstained. and clearly explained before she left Parliament to go back to the BRAC this evening to catch a flight. She explained why. So for a matter of clarity, which is smart of her, she used standing orders to her benefit. And this is when you know the rules of the game. You know the rules of the house. You know the processes and the laws that would protect you, not to say, okay, I'm playing with my vote or I'm sitting on the fence or anything like that. That is within her constitutional right to actually have abstained at that juncture. And with explanation, she said, this is the reason why I abstained, because I had a number of questions to ask during the committee stage amendments, but, it's the questions were answered. So again, it's making sure that when you see members of parliament quote a particular section of standing order, they're saying before even voicing their concerns or a point of order where they have the right to stand up and make their suggestions or challenge something that is being said. And that's exactly what Miss Julie did. So you see what we're doing here and what she did, it was nothing wrong with it. That is within her right. And this is why sometimes you have to understand and know the processes, understand the workings of it before you jump to conclusion. And I'm just so happy that here in this space, we have had the opportunity to at least give you a snippet of how it works, how Parliament actually works, okay? So nothing like this would surprise you or saying, oh, it's just bad mind. No, that was not the case. It was in her remit. It was in her legal right to do it. Because all that actually said aye, meaning yes, or to it overall, and then during committee stage amendments, they had all of these questions. It kind of made her look that if you had a lot of questions, everyone should have abstained that had additional questions or clarity. And then they could have had the right then of changing it afterwards. So yeah, it's amazing where we're headed. But the takeaway from all of this is that what was promised, what is said by all members of the government and let's say Parliament, is that it was never intended to create an environment of the them versus us, or that they were anti persons being able to come here and work or to invest here or anything of that nature. They just saw the need to, in this first segment of amendments, to address some of the needs and gaps that they feel will protect Caymanians. What do you feel about that? So the basics is, that where we are with this amendment validation bill is what was being told to the country. It's a part of a larger effort to update immigration framework here of the Cayman Islands. What the future looks like for us will be only a matter of time to tell. So, we just have to wait. But the aim is to modernize the rules of government. And because we're saying a lot of them are outdated, many of you are calling for certain things. As the first caller said, does this address the behaviors of an incident that took place earlier this year, and the cry for revocation of status? So it was supposed to address concerns that makes it fair in not only in the labor, but also overall the well-being and respecting who we are, our cultures, our rights. And now that, the decisions right now are ongoing because they're still, as I came live in this debate, we know that this immigration will impact and affect everyone's. Caymanians, long-term residents alike, employers, families, and even the future workforce. So when a bill like this is moving forward, it's not really just what we would call a political movement. it's a community moment because everyone at some point will be impacted by this. This, my friends, as well, was not just brought forward. It was in support, as we can see, based on the vote by the entire, with the exception, save by the 2 persons that were absent, by the entire parliament. Okay. And even though there were questions, there were concerns, at the end of the day, they're saying we need it, and we have established that here. So these amendments and corrections right now are being made, and we can see, and we have seen where others can shift. These amendments can actually shift policy in meaningful ways when they're actually dissected, viewed, and all of that. And with, I would say I can count at least 19, probably 20 and counting amendments that were made that are now on the table. And we just have to wait to see the document at the end of the day. And we're hoping that at the end of the day that it would have been able to clarify matters, make corrections that would be not damning or cause any more persons to feel that there's not enough protection in our immigration law to protect our people, but also to close some of those gaps. So we'll just honestly have to wait and see what the final document is. The mere fact that we're not expecting it to take into effect or come into effect fully until March, that will be accompanied by the bunch of regulations. We're hoping then between now and March, that there will be a lot more engagement so that we'll see how this is going to be applied. So like I said, some people are feeling relieved and reassured, and others are feeling like they were overlooked and that they were rushed. So both sides have their right. So what we say here, 266, let me go to some of the messages so we can keep up here this evening. A lot of people don't have common sense, so they can't use what they don't have. That's, you were talking about how they behave on the road. Yeah. Keith, good evening. How are you this evening? Says, Michael Miles is a champion. They are all champions because they all voted for it. Hello. Oh, Italy. Hi, how are you? OMG. All the way from Italy. Well, it's a pleasure to have you joining us here on Sabrina Speaks. And this 9745. I don't know what you're talking about. Liverpool. We are a British overseas territory jurisdiction. So yes, we are a British colony, hence the flag in the back. Melita, good evening to you. I hope you're doing well as well. Happy Friday. Keith, what's up? If work permits were for $1, a Caymanian would never get work. Well, how much times immigration fees have been actually increased and the numbers continue to rise? If the environment is there and the demand for skilled outside workers are created, Keith, in my humble opinion, people are going to apply for it. Because if you invested your money in order to run your business and you need persons to work, you have explored the local market and there's possibly nobody there that can fill that role, then you want your business to operate, you're going to have to face the music and pay the fees. So at the end of the day, remember, Keith, we're saying that the numbers of Caymanians, and which has been admitted on the floor of Parliament by certain members of Parliament, and I think that's a semblance throughout the entire Parliament, is that we just don't have enough Caymanians that would be able to fill the gap and fill every role. What people are asking for is to kind of close the door a little bit and give more protections. And in certain areas, we have seen where certain doors are definitely not closed. In some cases, they have left wide open or even open wider. And that is where some misunderstanding is coming now. Like they said, if they see where unintended consequences actually are going to happen, they will come back and then they will make the necessary changes. So we'll have to see. We'll just have to wait and see, Keith, to be honest. 1 second. Yeah, so that's where we are. You were a British colony, not anymore. Just subscribed. Oh, no, we're still a British colony, a British overseas territory jurisdiction. 303, just subscribed. Yeah, so there we have it. But again, all respect has to be due that everybody is doing their part and making sure that they reach the mandate of the people. And like we said, the cry wasn't to just throw it away or shelf it again. And kudos to all the persons that have worked on it from the operational arm of government. That has been stated many a times. But now here we are, and it's the next step that we move forward. So we're not going to look at this in a bad mind way, in a sense where to say that people are not concerned, that it's going to impact us. Only time will tell. But this is where you have to make sure that you get involved, and hopefully, let's say the next tranche of immigration amendments that is scheduled to happen, that you will take these public consultations seriously, attend the meetings and voice your opinions and ask whatever questions that bother you. And don't just leave it up for forums like this, like literally go and engage once the space is made available by the elected arm, and just go and voice your opinion. So we will bring it here. And I made you a promise yesterday that as we go through and we make any legislation, not just immigration, any legislation that comes about, I am more than willing to actually have it discussed here with you, your participation. But we need your feedback. You can send me an email, Sabrina Speaks, the number 12, and I'm going to put it here. You can email me at Sabrina Speaks, the number 12, and we can actually just make sure that let me just box that out. Make sure that we air it here, because your feedback is key. I will protect you if you want to remain anonymous, but we would love to hear your feedback no matter what. And later, let's do this. Everything is going crazy today. Why? Yeah, we would love to hear your feedback, definitely. So at the end of the day, as we continue to build this space, as we continue to educate, we will be keeping it real. We will create the space for discussion, food for thought, and if needs be, we send in your recommendations, or we know for sure that people are listening. We have gotten confirmation of that. And that is why it's key. That's why it's key that you participate, be it in whatever format you want. You comment here live, or you send your email. Yeah, let me just post my email. So there you have it. That's the email. You can always email me your concerns, your questions, or even topics. So at the end of the day, we'll be more than happy to air it here. So what about you people that are possibly feeling that you were overlooked? There's another group of persons that were probably watching and listening today, and their feelings matter just as much. Those persons that felt that it was rushed, felt that it was overlooked, right? And then you looked at those who are just feeling like this is a sigh of relief. Oh my gosh, finally we have something. And they're actually celebrating this, because they're saying this has been something that has been long discussed and it's finally moving forward. They see this as the majority of a vote. We see this as a majority vote as a sign of stability and direction for the Cayman Islands. And as we continue to evolve and develop, we're hearing that there are going to be amendments as well to the labor law and to pensions. as well. So there's going to be a lot of legislative changes for what was promised by the Honorable Minister that will be forthcoming. And this is why it's important then that we start this trend so that we get you accustomed to the processes of how it works, but more so your participation in when they're actually having these meetings publicly. It is important, one, that you show up, and two, you come prepared with your questions, because having this big outburst and outcry after the fact doesn't help. It does not help. And this is why during the consultative phase, be it a white paper or however they choose to do whatever it is, some laws and bills are going to be very topical. Some will not be as topical. But nevertheless, you have a right to avail yourself, to get involved, because legally it's a part of the process. So at the end of the day, for those who are seeing us as moving forward, I don't think anybody can say that we're not moving forward, to be honest. They, with the majority vote, because they believe that the changes here may bring more structure in many areas. They'll bring a lot more clarity as well, and more fairness to a system. And, because it has just been unfair in many areas. There's a lot of ambiguity where it leaves a lot of persons to perceive by perception of what you think. The line is what the law had intended, but what has really ended up into law is something else. And then again, loopholes are created. Lawyers, they specialize in this stuff because they have clients that could be impacted positively or negatively by this. But if they know it and they've been following it up, there are always ways of challenging any law. No law is bulletproof. Absolutely none. It's just how you present it. So if you're in the group that your feelings are valid, yes, progress, even when it's complex. Yes, everyone, this today can be a sign in a new direction where you're feeling reassured. Now, flip it on the other side. Hold on here. You guys, there we go. I'm going to deal with you. For all of you who are feeling overlooked or maybe even rushed, we have to also respect you guys as well. Oh, here we go. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind, sir?
Good evening, Sabrina.
Yes, sir.
How was your? I was hearing more than one sound, so I wondered if my my computer was on. Anyway, how are you today? You're great.
Yes, I'm fine. I am happy that it's Friday. I'm really looking forward to the weekend, to be honest.
Well, all of us are looking forward to the weekend, but we were hoping, of course, it would be, at least for me, I was hoping that it would be a weekend where the House might have said, well, yes, we'll postpone the bill and consult some more, but that hasn't happened.
So you're one of those that are feeling overlooked or rushed with the feeling,
I look like I'm not, I look like the elections are not important, like they come in, they do whatever they want, But I mean, they have passed the bill. I mean, well, in that I think they put the question whether the bill should be read a third time.
Yeah, they're in committee stage when I came live.
Yeah, they just finished committee stage and then they were going to third reading.
Okay.
And then the speaker put the question and then everybody said aye. But then somebody asked for a division of the House. Which, as you know, for some people who are watching, a recorded vote so that everybody can say whether they are voting for or against. And at that point, Mr. Bryan raised a little bit of an issue. It's not challenging the passage of the bill, but just some procedural thing. There's something that you can ask for at the end of the reading, either a point of explanation or something like that. I just forget what it is. So Mr. Miller, then the speaker said, okay, let us adjourn for 15, 20 minutes so that proposal can be put in writing and then they can come back and conclude.
So they're on a break right now.
Yeah, on a break right now, yeah. But basically the bill is they are getting into third reading, and it will be passed.
What would you say to
But,
some of those persons who really feel that, exactly what was the purpose then of even saying anything?
You mean like like for the opposition saying anything, or the public?
Yeah.
Like, in other words, I mean, what's the point of trying to make comments on it if they were going to pass it anyway? They're going to pass it anyway
Because
as the public.
like we said, there's a number of persons who already have the vote. Like we established that from before we even got into the meat of things when we were reviewing the bill, that the government has the numbers anyhow.
Yeah, so they didn't need, they didn't see that they needed to consult. They had the numbers, and even the changes that they have decided to put in there. In my view, I don't know, since we didn't really see them, and I didn't watch the committee stage amendments with that much detail. So put it this way, it just seems to me that there has been a little public impact after the bill passed, like whatever they've put in appears to be what they themselves wanted, and the public impact on the major issues has not been there. But let me go back to, what Michael Miles said yesterday. He gave some figures about how many grants were given in the last 10 years. I think he said that the status grants were like 7,000 plus in the last 10 years. And then the PR grants were like 9,000 plus. So what it means essentially is that about 17,000 people in the last 10 years have been given some kind of permanence, either status or PR. Now, I don't know if there have been that many births in Cayman, okay? Because that comes to about, in other words, the number of people being given permanency was something like nearly 2,000 every single year. And according to the statistics, which I think one of your callers is revealed, they say that the number of births in the Cayman Islands, foreign and local, is about 800.
Correct.
Then those about then those from Caymanians of right are somewhere around maybe 350 to 400. So if that is the amount of Caymanians as of right who are being born, between 400, and if you are giving permanence to about 2,000 people per year, by 2,000 I mean both PR and status grants. I mean, the population in Cayman, in terms of Caymanians of right, is dwindling at a very, very, very fast pace. Now, and the reason I mention this is I want to go back to, I usually don't like quoting people, but this time I'm going to quote Denny Warren Jr. Denny Warren Jr. ran in, and he'll kill me after this, probably. He will say, why did you mention me? But I will have to mention this. In 2017, he ran for Georgetown West, a very good slate of candidates. I think he ran against Elio Solomon, Jonathan Piercy, and David White. David White in the end won. Sometimes it is the worst candidate who wins, but that's another discussion for another day. But now, he suggested at the time, I remember very, very well, I was watching this at home, and it was on Cayman 27. He said, guys, those of you who are calling for shutting down the whole grant of status and PR, stop saying that. That's not practical. It is xenophobic. This country was built by a partnership between local people and foreign people. The vision was that of mainly local people. What we need to do is find a rational, proportionate way of catering to both interests. And that's how he came up with the thing that he has been saying lately. A lot of people might not remember that he started saying this in 2017 during the campaign.
Right.
When he said that. Now, if at that time, somebody had listened in government and implemented that, would you have had today 9,000 PR grants and 7,000 status grants, giving permanence to almost 17,000 people. Would that have happened? I kind of doubt that it would have happened, because I think it would have been very well regulated. Probably you might have given about half of that. And the point I'm trying to make is that in Cayman, you see, sometimes we don't vote for the right people. We vote for people who sweet talk us, but other people who are very thoughtful and look at all sides, but they give us a rational solution. We do not want to do that. Now, since then, when this issue again arose, I think he's been making the same point.
Yeah.
And again, and a lot of people have gravitated to that point. A lot of people like it, but the government is not listening. And even in the debate, I didn't watch all the debate. I watched quite a bit of the debates. It was not talked about. So for me, I would say you are looking for people for vision. In my view, I would say Danny Warren Jr. had a vision at that time. It was rational, but he was ignored. Now, one of the things which Kenneth Bryan said today was, or yesterday, he said, well, has there been a human rights check
Right.
for the Constitution? Yeah. You need to make double sure that you're not running into problems with human rights. And I think that was really correct. And, when Danny came up with this, I looked at it from the legal side, because I knew that could come up. And I found that really it would be very difficult for somebody to successfully challenge legislation which would implement his proposal. And the reason why it would stand up, in my view, to legal scrutiny is because, one, what would be the reason for that? For limiting grants so that they do not exceed the natural net birth rate. It is because the local people have got the right to self-determination. You can't have self-determination under all the human rights instruments, from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the European Convention on Human Rights, and all other conventions. The right to self-determination is protected. And if they had implemented this, that was going to be an exercise of that right.
Right.
Okay. And now, would it have been excessive? Like, sometimes you can exercise a right, but if you are doing something that is disproportionate, like you say, well, we are not going to give any grants anymore, you could still wind up in a problem. But this was proportionate because it was rational. It was saying we just want to do just enough to ensure that we are not being overtaken by foreign people. Now, to me, if this had been done, it would have been very good to actually say, okay, we will only give grants to 25% of the natural birth rate, because that's the only way you can reverse it, you see, because you don't just want to maintain it, especially where it has got to now. You want to reverse it, but reverse it very slowly. Then monitor it from year to year. You might maybe affecting the percentage just sometimes 2 to 5% every year, but so long as it's going down,
Right,
then you know you are doing the right thing. But you see, that has been ignored all these years. And today, Michael Myers was talking about vision. To me, all those people in the House, in the government, I don't think they've got vision. They are talking very strongly about, oh, you see, that's why we changed the name of the party. We had the name of the party called the Caymanian Party or whatever, the Cayman Community Party. Or the ministry is the Ministry of Caymanian Employment. You can say that all you want, but if you don't do the nuts and bolts of ensuring that those figures are going to work in practice, you're just totally wasting time. In my view, they have actually sold Cayman with this bill. Let me mention another thing, which is like a technical thing at a government level. Do you know that sometimes even the people who are drafting this legislation, both the drafter of the legislation and even the person who is giving like the technical instructions, both of them very often are not Caymanian?
That was pointed out here, and that was pointed out here during the presentation of the bill, that who's writing these are not Caymanian. So how would we expect them to think culturally like how we want them to think?
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm glad that they mentioned that, because this
It
is
was
something
said
I
here.
mentioned also
It was said here. It was mentioned in
on the
some of
show.
the, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful for whoever mentioned that, because that's very, very important. And I can validate it
I
because I
got
used
a
to be
call as
legislative
well
director.
off record that confirms that highlighted the same thing, and their feedback was, why do the Caymanian think that this is going to reflect their culture, who we are, and all of that sort of stuff, when it's not Caymanians that are writing and making these recommendations? They're not writing the laws. They're not writing the policies.
I am so glad that, people have seen the same
People are
thing that
seeing it.
I've seen, and they are calling for it.
They're
Exactly.
seeing and they're saying
You
it.
know, in way back, the person who used to write most of the immigration laws, I won't call his name, but he was a drafter there. He was from Trinidad. And he was the one who was assigned all the immigration matters. And they would sit in the room for hours with this other gentleman who was from the UK, not a Caymanian. And they would sit there and write it and write it and write it and write it. And to me, I found that odd, because where I come from, they would have insisted, okay, maybe the Caymanians don't have the technical skill to draft it, and maybe it might not have all the background information, but they would always insist that there must be a Caymanian there.
But
there must be a Caymanian there.
But even when that's being drafted, normally the ministry staff would be there along with them, given guidance and directions from the minister, which would be a reflection of the caucus, correct? And even at some point before it even gets to the floor of Parliament. That's why they caucus. That is why they have the multiple. We heard the Honorable Minister said today that he and his team made multiple presentations to his group, to his caucus. Who his caucus is are Caymanians. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So even though the representation, the recommendations being made, or laws, policies are drafted by non-Caymanians, when these presentations are made, the mindset for when it's presented, if you want to keep it local, could be reflected in change and questions asked of those drafters who are not Caymanians. And well, why can't you actually give me some sort of legalese or language in this law that embodies what my people are asking for, embodies what our culture is saying? It doesn't make it to the floor of Parliament unless Cabinet agrees.
Okay.
So you can't just put all the blame on the drafters.
Yeah. Okay. And you're right about that, because the drafters don't start drafting it from a vacuum or from their own policy vantage point. They are given at least broad policy directives by way of instructions to say, okay, this is the way you are going to do it.
Correct.
Now, one of the answers that I've heard to that is always been, oh, well, you see, but the drafters can do the technical bit, but it will still go to Cabinet and they'll have a look at it. That's a mistake that you are making. Because if you give the drafters broad instructions and then they are supposed to reduce it to writing, there are a lot of supplementary issues that arise.
Correct.
Which after they finish drafting it and give it to you, they will not occur to you. And they will choose whether to raise them with you or not. If they feel the Caymanians are going to do something to mess us up, let's not raise this issue. They'll become too wise. Because every time when you are drafting a piece of legislation, even if you have instructions, you can frame it in such a way that the discussion is around certain issues. I used to laugh at this sometimes. I would go to meeting, many committees I was on in Cayman writing legislation. Like they put together a committee, and then I go to the committee, and then I say, okay, guys, first of all, before we put down anything, can we discuss the ideas? Okay, can we discuss the ideas? And then they'll say, oh, no. You don't have to, why don't you just write something? And then we come down, we discuss the draft, and they don't know how much power they are giving me. Because I will frame it, I will put what I want in there. When they come, they will be discussing what I put there. What I haven't put there, they are not, even if they are smart, they might not know even what the subject is. You see, it's always better when you brainstorm it first broadly. Then you establish the issue so that by the time now you're writing it down, you are the ones who have set down the framing of the legislation. Don't let the drafter set the framing. Okay, you first of all set the framing by the ideas, talk about the ideas, and then you find out that you have more control. You see, this is what I teach in my little course. I tell them, don't go out there and tell the drafter, just do a draft for us and then give it to us, and then we'll have a look at it. Even if you have given them broad instructions, you must also always ensure that before anything is written down, you have discussed the policy to a lot of detail.
But
so
hold
to
on,
me,
stick
I
a
think
pin.
this has to change.
Stick a pin, because some people are getting a little scared by what you're saying.
Scared?
No, because of the reality of what you're saying.
Okay. Okay.
Having been in a ministerial seat, I was subject to all of that. And hence me reading, and hence certain things being slowed down, because I did not, while during there, wasn't looking at emboldening myself. I wanted to make sure I got it right. Therefore, there were a lot of questions. I asked things to be slowed down, hold it back, because they had to answer certain questions, the policy people, and they had to answer certain questions for me that would have been in the best interest of everybody at the end of the day. And that was where I noticed things began to slow down, because I was asking the right questions. Because what you would be asking for, or what you would be looking for in a bill, when it was presented in, let's say, those weekly or bi-weekly policy meetings that you sat into to get updates, it didn't align with what I was saying. And then you keep going back, and I can see them getting a little frustrated. It's almost as though, let us do the work, just deliver what we give you. And that is frustrating, because you are there for the best interest of the people. You obviously would know about the subject matter. You know what your colleagues in caucus and cabinet have said, given the directives, what they support you in doing. Give me what I've asked for. And that aligns with exactly what you've described. The power that is in the hands of the legal drafters. They can draft these things. What is not being said is what you should be concerned about.
Yeah. You see, this is something which happens in jurisdictions, and a lot of jurisdictions have reduced to writing a lot of details about how that interaction should be. For example, if you look at the drafting guidelines for New Zealand, for example, they will tell you that, look, writing legislation is always very difficult, even at a personal level, because you are given a policy instructions, and you as a drafter, you do not determine policy. But you can question the policy. You can ask why certain things are being done. You can ask them, couldn't you have done it in this other way because it's easier, or it can be better implemented, or maybe it is more likely to pass? You, as a drafter, you are entitled to ask all those questions. However, at the end of the day, it is the policy of the government that you're supposed to give effect. If at the end of the day you've made all your suggestions and they still say they want certain things to be passed, then you have to draft it in accordance with the instruction. The only time when you can put your foot down is if you say, I think this is unconstitutional, I think this is illegal. Then you can say, no, this I'm not going to put it because I will take responsibility for it. It is illegal. But what I can do, since you have raised it and you are insisting on it, I'll put it to the Attorney General and find out what he's going to do.
And you will find in those meetings, when like ministers come in with their groups and all that sort of stuff, you will have a lot of questions being asked by members of the government, by your caucus. Even though, let's say, use me as an example. Let's say I was presenting an amendment to the pharmacy bill. My colleagues, even though we're on the same side, have a right to ask me all the questions. And that's why they ask all of those questions with my team. More than likely, it'll be a legal team, the senior policy advisor in there, to make sure that is our in-house stress testing the law that we're trying to put in place. Now, let's say after we have discussed all of that, They go back with any action items and they go to the legal drafters. When they come back, that should be a reflection of the discussions and questions that were asked by my other colleagues and myself, because it was warranted, it was justified. But if it keeps coming back, it is up to the minister to remember what the takeaway and the action items were so that it's then reflected for the next presentation. Sometimes I can tell you, these things would be overlooked. It will be overlooked, which is why it is key. It is key for you to have an excellent PA, but also trusted policy advisors in the ministry that supports and works with you. Because as the minister with that constitutional responsibility, you have a responsibility to make sure you honor the requests and acts of your colleagues in your caucus and your cabinet as well.
And you know, those policy advisors, if you can have as many Caymanians as possible, it will help. You know, the number of things I used to learn when I was writing legislation dealing with Caymanians, it was amazing. It was amazing. Some of them were just ordinary facts, but sometimes it was also how people tend to think. For example, one time I was writing a certain bill. This one, actually, I had left government. I was writing as a consultant. I got to learn, that's when I got to learn that there were a lot of kids in Cayman who had a small marijuana joint when they were 16 years old.
That's why the decriminalization for small amounts were being asked. Yeah.
Exactly. That was it, you know. And I mean, we made, so, okay, I can tell you that it was when I was working with the criminal records law, because I wrote that as a consultant, okay, after I had left. And I learned so much because the overwhelming majority of the people I was dealing with were Caymanians, you know. And it just helps to give a better perspective. And I think in Cayman, there has to be a greater appreciation that even if something is said to be technical, nothing is technical in every way. There are always certain cultural nuances that you bring as a Caymanian to certain things. And that is very important. I'll tell you, for example, where I came from, when we went out on a government delegation to another country, they always made sure that the head of the delegation was a local person. Okay? Because they also believed in this thing about we must be seen to be in charge.
Correct.
We must be seen to be in charge. You can't do things like that. So in Cayman, you see, this is the thing why I think I was prevented and fought from teaching my course, because my little course on legislative process covers all these. The dynamics of how you are supposed to work with a drafter. You should know when to tell the drafter, you can't ask me that because that is a policy question. And sometimes you have to be able to say, yes, you can ask me that. It sounds like a policy question, but it has legal implications. There is a way in which you have to learn how that is done. But of course, they didn't want me to do that because it was going to give Caymanians greater control on the content of legislation and how to ensure that what they want to be done is going to be done. Now, you were talking about the participation of your colleagues, and you jogged my memory about something. You see, usually in a big government, the way you do your cabinet memoranda is as follows. For example, okay, you want legislation, say, I don't know, on health. And the policy is worked out by the minister and the policy advisors, they work out the policy. And then they say, okay, now, as minister, you say, please write a cabinet paper to take to cabinet to seek approval in principle, meaning just policy approval for a certain thing to be done. Okay, and then what you would do normally is that you would prepare a draft cabinet paper. And that draft cabinet paper doesn't first go to cabinet. You as a ministry, once you prepare it and you approve it as minister, you circulate it. There's what you call a cabinet paper for circulation. Now, this is not done in Cayman as far as I'm aware. But in other countries, then you would write your cabinet paper, and then at the end, you would have a whole sheet of papers which say the Ministry of Finance has commented, has read the bill, the proposal and comments as follows. The Minister of Tourism has read the proposal, the Attorney General has read the proposal, so that at the end of the draft cabinet paper, there are comments on that draft cabinet paper by all these other ministries and institutions. And then when they write it, if they are all in support, you reproduce then the draft cabinet paper with all those comments verbatim, and then you take it to cabinet.
Right.
Now, if at a certain point you find that there are too many disagreements from other ministries, then you would adjust the cabinet paper and circulate it a second time, because what you want to do is that by the time it goes to cabinet, most of the people should be agreed.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that is so that, and then when you get to cabinet now, the members of cabinet are not looking at it for the first time.
It's not to critique at that point. Worse, if it gets on the floor of parliament, you shouldn't have a government member of your cabinet pretty much questioning something that has been tabled by their colleague, because it shouldn't have made the floor of parliament unless it was agreed to by all of you in cabinet.
Exactly. And in fact, you see, once it is agreed in cabinet, there should be very little change once it goes to parliament, because you don't want to circumvent the cabinet process. Okay, at cabinet it should pretty much be settled. If you are going to have committee stage amendment, this should be little tiny things. What I used to see in there, this is not the time you were in government, like before that. I mean, we would be sitting in a committee room and the people are still calling the minister, can you change this, can you change this? And then by the time it is passed, it doesn't resemble the one that was
you started out in the first place.
Do you see? Because why is cabinet there? Cabinet is supposed to give coherence all the views in the manner that you've described, so that when it comes out of cabinet, largely cabinet, okay, first of all, there's collective responsibility. They know that they have to support it, but also that there's a real agreement apart from collective responsibility. So that if they go into the House now, if they have to do some changes, it will be maybe to accommodate the opposition or something really urgent that arises. So you do two or three amendments. You don't go there with 17 amendments. That's not the procedure. They will tell you in the larger jurisdiction like Australia, if you have to do that many committee stage amendments, pull it back. You're not ready. Okay.
Caller, I noticed that there is a number of things which aligns straight into conversations that you brought up today, and also what Mr. Denny Warren kept actually saying in regards to Cayman's population. CMR just posted an article, is moving closer to 90,000. And I quote, the population boom is overwhelmingly driven by an influx of foreign workers rather than natural population growth. Non-Caymanians now constitute 54.3% of the total population, which is 48,200 people, surpassing the Cayman population of 40,633. The data reveals stark contrast in growth rates. While the Caymanian population increased by just 2.5% from 2023 to 2024, the non-Caymanian population surged by 4.8%. This trend
almost twice.
This trend has been accelerated since 2022, when the population jumped by an extraordinary 14.7% in a single year.
Wow.
I don't have a problem dissecting this in detail in a show on Monday, but this article was just published, and it further says the workforce composition underscores this shift. The fall 2024 labor force survey shows that the 60,828 people in the labor force, 33,387,000 are non-Caymanians, representing 55% of all workers. The remaining workforce consists of 22,535 Caymanians and 4,906 permanent residents with rights to work, end quote. And that is not the entire article.
And you see, when they say that 45% or whatever that figure is, that those are Caymanians, that includes status holders.
Correct. It does. They didn't separate indigenous. No.
And I don't know why they don't do that. That concept, like Danny Warren has repeatedly pointed out, it already exists.
Mm-hmm.
It is important that you do that. That's why I keep citing Dr. Mikana Scott, this young Caymanians who finished her PhD, I think about 2 years ago, and I attended online her seminar. She pointed out, she said, in the workforce in Cayman, the number of Caymanians as of right is only about 28%. That's the percentage she gave.
Those are the numbers in the 20s. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, in the 20s. It's about 1 in 4. Okay, so if you are having those kinds of figures, I mean, it is totally alarming. It is something that, first of all, they should keep statistics to show how many people are Caymanians as of right, and those who are status holders, and so on.
Just for context and for full clarity, so you see how much are for context. Yeah. And it further said, among Caymanians specifically, unemployment stood at 4.6%, indicating strong demand across all demographic group. Now, it also says that Cayman's economy maintained steady growth with a real GDP expanding by an estimate of 2.4% in 2024, building on growth of 3.4% in 23, with the GDP per capita exceeding 100,000. And the Cayman Islands ranks among the world's wealthiest jurisdictions. Yeah.
And that GDP can be very, very misleading. It reminds me of one book which I was reading. When I was reading, I did a small economics course way back, and one of my lecturers actually was rumored to be a communist. This is way back about 1972. And he was saying, you know what, you guys, what you should do is read the capitalist books, Leo Haberman, Man's Worldly Goods, and the Keynes and so forth. But read also the leftist views, because it will help to balance you out. And you make up your own mind. And I remember one communist book I was reading. It was saying that the bourgeoisie statistics are always very misleading, because they will tell you, for example, if one person eats 1 chicken per day, the other one eats no chicken per day, they will tell you that people in this country eat half a chicken per day. And yet, one eats no chicken, the other one eats the whole chicken. And when you look at these figures about the GDP in Cayman, one has to think about that, because there are those people who are big millionaires, and then those people who can barely afford to have breakfast.
Exactly.
When you average it out, it looks very good. I mean, when I was working for government, my missus then was working for Department of Children and Family Services. And I learned a lot from her, because I found out there were people in Cayman who were living in conditions I never thought existed in Cayman. Okay, I never thought they existed, and just there are these pockets of poverty which are there, and people just never knew much about
it.
But exactly. So at the end of the day, look, the way I see it, I think status holders have basically taken over Cayman. I'm very disappointed that the bill has passed. At a personal level, I've had a little bit of a disappointment as well, in the sense that, you see, when I came to Cayman, I thought that Caymanians would be in charge. Okay? But when I came to Cayman, and after I settled in the 6th or 7th year, I was starting to see that Caymanians were not really in charge. It was mainly the status holders. And then I saw how the status holders were treating Caymanians. And then I found out that, in fact, 50% of the problem is not even legal. Like I said the other day, it's not even legal. Yeah, it's not legal. It's just a certain attitudes and certain people who are in charge. If I can tell you about the portfolio of legal affairs without mentioning names, you had one person who used to work there, didn't even have PR, but wanted to go and do a master's and come back. Now, to me, an expatriate doesn't take a study leave for 1 year to do a master's and come back. Okay, because that's not a privilege that an expatriate should have. Where I came from, that was just unthinkable. But that was happening in the portfolio of legal affairs. Why? Because the people who were making decisions were status holders. There are one person who has been there for a long time, almost 17 years, no promotion, and they've been actively suppressed. The big powers in government know that she has been suppressed, but nothing has happened. There's another person who used to work there. He used to be in government and then qualified as a lawyer, and then he was working the portfolio of legal affairs. But what they did is they kind of didn't want him there, not because he was a problem. They said, well, look, we can give you a position and you can become a legal advisor to the police. So they shunted him out to, the place there in the plaza where you used to get police clearances.
Yeah.
I think it's on Smith
Smith
Road.
Road. Yeah.
They gave him an office there.
Smith Road or Walker's Road? Walker's Road
I think it's
across from,
Walker's.
Walker's Road. But just before Burger King.
Walker's, yeah, exactly. Yeah, up there. Yeah. So they put him there. He didn't have an assistant. He really didn't have any experience. He needed to be close to people who could assist him on a daily basis. He didn't have a library. And to me, it was just another way of saying, no, we don't want a Caymanian.
Yeah, you had said that before. Correct. Oh,
exactly. Wow. And he was sent there.
But
why
caller,
is it that up to now?
Go ahead. I want to also highlight something in this article, but go ahead. Wrap up that line.
Okay. Why? Yeah. Okay. Let me just wrap up. Yeah. You see, and then you've got. I know two ladies, Caymanians, who should have been judges. Now they are not judges. Why? It was because they were kept out. There's no Caymanian Solicitor General, Assistant Solicitor General. Although Assistant Solicitor General, there's one lady there who is more aligned to the Jamaican side, so they gave her the position. So, to me, these are the things that have to be addressed as well. The legislation, even if eventually it becomes reasonably good, unless you can address these de facto things, I think there's still a fundamental problem. Caymanians are not sufficiently protected by even the policies and the practices that take place.
Right. This is a good article for today. This is a good article because it continues to say that Georgetown absorbed nearly half of the total population of 43,220 residents, or 48.7%, with non-Caymanians comprising of 6 to 5% in Georgetown residents. West Bay, of course, that's the second largest district, houses 19,636 residents, while Bordentown accounts for 17,648 residents, 19.9%. Then it goes to say the sister islands, Kimmebrack and Little Cayman, remain the least populated at 3,462%. But what I'm going to also state here, that is covered in this article, right? And I'm not reading it in entirety. Economic projections suggest that the population could reach 95,000 by 2027 if current trends continue. The ESO forecasts continued economic growth, with real GDP expected to expand by 2.6% in 2025 and 2.2% in 2026, maintaining a strong demand for labor. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. But the problem is that demand for labor. You see, if industries in the Cayman Islands, when they are established, would impact the local unemployment situation, then I would say that's good. But the problem in Cayman is that, you see, unemployment continues, did you say 4.5% or thereabouts? There should be, actually, with that number of work permits, almost 40,000, there should be not a single Caymanian
that is
wants
unemployed.
to work, who shouldn't have a job. When I was in the BVI, when I went to the BVI in 1997, I think it was, they had virtually full employment because they had work permits, but they had full employment in that anybody who wanted a job was able to work. Yeah, was able to work. You see, for me, Sabrina, I feel like, in a sense, Cayman has been kind to me, but I feel in a sense I was duped, because when I came to Cayman, like I said, I thought Caymanians would be in charge. So I started doing things which were to work together with them, together with the expert people. But in the end, they told me, no, but you see, you can't teach Caymanians this, you can't teach Caymanians that. Initially, actually, when I wanted to teach my course, it was not for money. I was in government. I just wanted to do it for nothing. I had written 2 books on Caymanian law, legislative process, Caymanian judicial review. And there's a way I feel like that amount of time I spent has been half wasted, in the sense that, you see, a lot of people come to Cayman and they boast about how they built Cayman. But a lot of them, in fact, Cayman built them more than they built Cayman, because they've made a lot of money. But okay, a kind way to look at it is to just say there was a good arrangement where people are working for Cayman, Cayman is working for them. That's fine. But a lot of them were just earning a salary. I wanted to do more than earn a salary. That's why I went out of my way to develop courses, to do the books and this and that. And that has been largely ignored by the government, apart from Mr. Arden McLean, who gave me a little shout out to the new MPs to say they should read my book. And when you bring somebody in your country and you say, we want you to be a partner with us, when that person offers certain things, you should take those things. But what I should say is that the people who made the decisions to block Caymanians from benefiting from what I was developing outside even of work, it was the status holders. They are the ones who didn't want that to happen. And then there was 1 or 2 sellout Caymanians in the top echelons of government who didn't want that. That's not good. Cayman will only continue to make progress if you can use people who come in to use their expertise to build yourself. At the moment, MPs need to still learn how to read a bill. They don't know how to read a bill. And for example, what Justice Mr. Miles did when he was asked by Kenneth Bryan to say, can you explain this to me
Hold
in
on.
layman's
Stick
terms,
a
what
pin.
it
Wait,
means?
are you watching? Hold on. I got that clip, I think. Hold on. Let me see if I can add it to the stage. Just for context.
Yeah.
Minister, in common terms, what just happened? What did he just say as to the amendment? Somebody that don't know anything about law, what did that mean?
Mr. Chairman, the member is right. I do understand it. Can I coach a person through it? No, that's why I have these folks back here. The law, at the end of the day, is written to ensure that the folks behind here can do their jobs. My job is to create legislation and help them do their jobs to the best of my ability.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I need to play that over, because if you can't explain it, how are you going to create the legislation? And I mean, for context,
Exactly.
it's not if you're there to create legislation, but you can't explain it. It is, to my humble opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say thank you to the Honourable Minister for his...
Hold on, let's go back.
Here's the question. Can the Minister explain in common terms what just happened? What did he just say as to the amendment? Somebody that don't know anything about law, what did that mean?
Mr. Chairman, the member is right. I do understand it. Can I coach a person through it? No, that's why I have these folks back here. The law, at the end of the day, is written to ensure that the folks behind here can do their jobs. My job is to create legislation and help them do their jobs to the best of my ability.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say thank you to the Honourable Minister for his honesty. But it's not only for the technocrats to understand. We're here legislators on behalf of the people. So if he can admit that he don't understand what he just said, how do you expect the public to understand it? And this is why we talked about not having the opportunity to discuss this in 28 days before, 26 hours before the debate. This is a substantial amendment to the amendment of the bill. That is the I don't know what else to say, Mr. Speaker.
Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's finished.
Yeah.
Well, do you see? These are the things. I mean, look, I hate to tell people I told you so. When I was in government, I was telling them, I said, you see, a lot of the laws that we're writing, they are not very easy for people to understand. We need to get into plain
Dissect it
language
in
writing.
layman's terms, yeah.
dissect it in layman's terms, and then we need to change the way in which we write our explanatory memorandum, because the explanatory memorandum, it shouldn't say just, oh, we've got transitional provisions in clause 35, because then you haven't explained anything. If all that you are saying in the memorandum of objects and reasons, if all you are saying is that, well, in clause this, we say that, in clause this, you will find provisions for that. You don't even need to say that, because somebody might as well read it after all their marginal notes and this and that. An explanatory memorandum is supposed to explain in lay terms what you are trying to do. First of all, the way you draft it as much as possible should be in terms that don't sound overly legal. Okay? These days, you see, the way we write legislation these days, if somebody says, I read your legislation, it doesn't read like it was written by a lawyer, I'll say, yes, that's a compliment. Okay, because let me say this. You know, today it is said that if you want to write a piece of legislation which is written in old legalese, like which all of us were trained on, it's very easy to do. But if you are going to write a piece of legislation that is easy to understand, it's very difficult to do, because now as a lawyer, you have to forget about your legal language and this and
put
that,
it into
and bring
everyday
it down
language.
Exactly. That's why you will find a lot of legislation now, particularly from Australia and New Zealand, when you read it, you find they don't use shall, they don't use heretofore, they don't split it too much. I mean, there are so many things which they do differently. But on top of that, they also have an explanatory memorandum which explains. For example, in the transitional provision, let's go back to the immigration bill. The immigration bill, with section 35 talks about, the transitional provisions, or somebody who was a worker at this time and we shall continue to do this and that. That is not easy to understand. You have to tell people, for example, you have to say, in that clause, we want to deal with several categories of people. Here are the categories of people. One category are those who are in Cayman now. There's that category of those who come after the law is passed. There are those who come to Cayman between now and the time the law passes. Now, we want to explain how that law applies to each of these. And then you go and you explain it. And you also say what the position is now and what it will be, so that people can understand, so that a lay person, without going to the bill, just reading the memorandum of object and reason, they'll be able to understand it. And those are the things that there's need for a lot of reform in the Cayman Islands. But there's this resistance to reform, because they want to keep people ignorant, so that way they can control them. That's not right. I think people must fight.
There we took almost 9 days. We're going into about 11 now, including today, of breaking it down in layman's terms for the very same reason that you're saying here, so that we can. I've used myself as an idea. I've used a teacher as an example, just to put it into context in layman's terms. And I did that because we were discussing it so that everyone can understand. But very good question. And Danny, I brought this up earlier. His question was, if a non-Caymanian civil servant has worked less than 2 years and wants to leave the civil service, is that person required to leave Cayman Islands before being allowed to work in the private sector? That question was posed for clarity, or asked for more clarity, and posed by the member from Caymanian East. And when it could not be answered, because they have to go back to the legal team, because it didn't seem as though those provisions were covered in this law. So they asked for time to go back to look at legislation now to see exactly how that will be addressed. But it looks as though if presented as is, someone who is a non-Caymanian working in the civil service, should they get the job in the civil service and leaves, there is nothing that is clear that they would have to leave the island before going to private sector. It is not clear.
And that is such a first of all, that is why you don't rush legislation, especially complex legislation like that. And even me, that hadn't occurred to me, because the whole thing is so complicated. And to me, this is something they should have fixed, because this is very simple.
But it
if
hasn't
they have
been.
made a mistake with this, how many other little mistakes are there which are like this, which they haven't looked into?
Then it goes back to why the member from Kimmerbach East, and she explained why she abstained before going into committee stage. And she explained why she abstained, because she had questions to ask, knowing within standing orders that she could change her decision afterwards when they went back to House. When the House then came back. When they came out of committee stage, she could have changed her vote.
Yeah, this is not right, because, I mean, there are so many things they could have done. I mean, this could have even gone to, first of all, a committee of parliament just to have a look at it, maybe even ask people to come and give evidence before it. I mean, they've rushed it, but I mean, they've passed it, they've got the numbers. But to me, I think they when you look at what is going on now, I think that I wouldn't be surprised, like I've said, if even the status grants and the PRs, they go up, because remember that this will only kick into
March.
effect in
On or around March.
Yeah, because you see, if that provision is still there, the one which says that if you are in Cayman already now, before it comes into effect, you will be considered by the old law. You know what that means? It also means that you can come back in 2040 and apply for status and say that, for me, I can apply for status at the end of 15 years. That's what it means. Yeah. In 2040, you can say, well, I came to Cayman in November 2025, when status could be obtained at the end of 15 years. Now, 2040 is 15 years. I'm applying for my status. The new provision of 20 years doesn't apply to me. What applies to me is the 15 years, the one which applied 15 years ago when I came to Cayman. That's what it means as well. So it just doesn't delay it by 9 years. It delays it by 9 years in terms of PR grants, but it delays it by 15 years with respect to status. Do you see how ineffective it is between now and 15 years? I don't know if they've addressed that, or people really understand that these new provisions regarding status will not start applying until at the end of 15 years. The ones for PR will start applying at the end of 9 years.
Right. Exactly. Because we have to see the residual. Morna asked, please tell me how many expats will opt to work for any government when they won't be allowed to go into private sector at the same point in the future. Please tell me how many expats will opt to work for any government when they won't be allowed to go into private sector at some point in the future. That's a question.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because it allows me to express what my view is. In my view, if somebody comes to Cayman and to work for government, there should be no restriction to them going into the private sector if they want to. Like that thing that, well, if they want to go in the private sector, they have to leave for 2 years or whatever. To me, that's just another way of saying you can't leave, because who is going to hold the job for you for 2 years? To me, it must be remembered that if you are going to go into the private sector, there will be a work permit which will be applied for you. Okay, they will vet it. And if there is a local business which wants you, having come to government, they want you, and then they apply, they make their case to the work permit board, and the work permit board is satisfied that you are an appropriate person and you should work there. I don't see why the law should restrict that. To me, it sounds almost like it's indentureship, that once you come to Cayman, you are like the old Indians who were brought to the Caribbean for indentureship. You can't move. I don't think that's right. And I don't think that really helps Cayman meet what its ultimate objectives are. To me, it just looks as if now you are trying to, like, you are just not happy that people are changing jobs. No. To me, I don't think that is really helping to meet their objectives. I think it is more something like they want to restrict people. They call it job hopping. No.
Yeah. Lord. But Miss Melita is saying, Mr. Samamba, what if I marry you as a 5th generation? See, somebody is saying, what if they marry you? Miss Melita.
What if they marry me? Oh, that's a tough one. It sounds very good. Let me tell you that. Let me tell you, it sounds very good.
Anyhow, there is Authentic coming on at 7, and I got to do my wrap up, but we're going to continue
Okay,
this
you take
because
care.
that
Nice talking
article,
to you.
yeah, man, that article
Yeah.
is very good. And I'll probably go into that a little bit more. Well, not probably. I will go into that article because that has some serious information and puts everything into perspective with what just unfolded today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'll
Have
go
a
to
good
it and read
weekend.
it myself right now.
Yes, sir.
You
Take care. Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there we have it. Once it's right for our MPs, give questions to the rest. What's going to happen with the amount of children that have come as dependents and now have PR? How the law will apply to them. They came to stay and are legally, and once they're, yeah, well, we can bring that up. I made mention of this, Maria, last week, a particular section of the law. So I'll dissect that, but I got less than 5 minutes to wrap up. And I just want to thank you all for joining me again this evening. And I hope that there were some good takeaways from this. And I do my best to try and bring a balanced approach here, looking at both sides, but we will continue to explore. We will continue to follow this up. The latest is it has already been passed. Committee stage amendments has already been finished. And we are now not expecting this law with the amendments of the amended amendments that were also proposed to take effect more than likely of March of 2026. So as I come to a close of today's conversation, I want us to remember that even though passing of these laws that we have explored here pretty much almost for 2 weeks, if you consolidate everything together, is really only the beginning. And I didn't even get able to advocate, but I'm going to definitely push enforcement, resources, training, and public participation are what will make these laws work at the end of the day. Let me tell you something. If they don't fund enforcement arm of the multiple government agencies, all of this is for naught. Because immigration reform will only matter, for example, if CBC, the DLP, the CBC, the WORC enforcement agencies are properly funded, if they're properly staffed, trained, and have to be supported. And guess what? You, the public, will also play your part because reporting breaches and standing up for fairness will also be critical. So that's how this legislation will become a live reality. Everybody has their role to play. But, as we step out of Parliament and into the weekend, life doesn't stop. We know that. Christmas is here, the spirit is in the air, and there are lots of office party, family gatherings, shopping, and celebrations are filling our calendars. And yes, we know the roads are going to be busier. I can only imagine tomorrow. The traffic is heavier and the pace is definitely getting faster. So I want us all to please, 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 let's carry some patience and awareness and acts that everyone do this, orderly as much as they can. So before I sign off, I want to give a special shout out to our frontline staff, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, all of our 911 operators, our first responders, and their families who support them. I want to personally thank you from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks for your service, your sacrifice, and definitely your vigilance, because you're the ones who keep us safe while we rest, as we celebrate, and as we honor this season. So I'm inviting every one of you to please stay engaged, stay informed, and please, please, please be safe, Cayman. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you all lots. Until Monday, stay tuned for more content on cmrtv.com because Authentic is up next. Love you, Jimbo. I see you. Love you lots. Take care, guys.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.